So welcome back. So on one hand, we have domain name, and on the other hand, we have a web app hosted on AWS, right? So we bought domain name from Google Domains, and we also hosted the test app and production app on AWS. So the aim is to establish a connection between the domain name and the hosted web apps on AWS. So how to do this? This video is about that. So we need to establish a connection between the domain name and the app hosted on AWS. We do this by configuring the name servers for our domain name. So Amazon Route 53 is something which helps us do this by giving the name servers. So what are name servers? Name servers just look like any other domain name, but their job is to direct the traffic from one domain name to the web hosted on some other domain or some other platform, right? Okay, so it is well known fact that the servers don't have any names. They are just represented with IP address, which is nothing but consist of numbers. But humans are more used to names, right? So we call other persons with names, and we are used to this. It's very difficult for us to remember the numbers. So the IP address of the servers are represented with the domain names. So whenever we hit a domain name, that particular domain name should be resolved into that corresponding IP address. So who does this job? The name servers do the job. Okay. So whenever a request is coming to the domain name, the name servers return the IP address of the server where the web app is hosted. Thus, they help us to direct the traffic to the web app hosted on some other platform. Okay, so in order for us to do all these things, first of all, we need to configure the name servers for our domain name. Okay, so we can do that. We can configure our domain name to the name servers provided by AWS Route 53. Okay, to 53. And hosted zone. So this is the hosted zone. Create hosted zone. So you can see this. This is the name of the domain that you want to route traffic for, right? So our domain name is desap.co.in. Then let this be a public hosted zone, and then create hosted zone. So click on that. Next, we can see this particular domain name with the Route 53. Okay, so click on this. So we can see these two, right? So what happens is desap.co.in, this has these name servers to be routed to. So these are the name servers given to us by Route 53. So what we shall do is, we will configure these name servers onto the Google domains, because we have registered our domain name with Google domains. And then whenever any user has something to do with desap.co.in, where should the traffic go? So for this mapping, we use name servers. So go back to this and click on DNS in Google domains. And yes, so as said here, name servers store the configuration of your domain as a collection of resource records. Okay, if you use Google domain name servers, you can use the rest of this page to configure your domain. Alternatively, you can enter up to 12 custom name servers here and configure your domain with your third-party DNS server. So we want to configure it with AWS name servers. So click on the use custom name servers. So what I did is, I just use these 4 name servers as given here without the ending full stop. So don't put that ending full stop, only use the name server domain names, and edit it here and save them. Okay, so it looks like this. If you want to add, we can click on plus button. Okay, then save it. Okay, so it says that it will take 48 hours, but mostly it doesn't take like that. Okay, so it may take hardly 5 minutes or 10 minutes in most the cases. So go back to this and then create a record, simple routing. So define a simple record. So let us create a publicly available domain name for our first app, so the production app. So let us name that to be my first app .dayesapp.co.in. Then to which particular link this traffic should be diverted to. So that is what this is telling. So it is like whenever a user hits this in a browser, what should be done, which link to be uh, invoked. Okay, so click on this. Since our app is hosted on Elastic Beanstalk, so we can search for one alias to Elastic Beanstalk environment. Then choose the region. So if you remember, our region was Mumbai, right? So Mumbai. Then if you remember, there are only two apps. One is the testing app and one is the My First app, which is a production app. So let us click on this. We'll be able to see the drop down, select My First app. So it is like whenever a traffic is coming to this particular link, that will be directed to this particular link where the app is hosted. Okay. Now define simple record. So we can see this, right? Create records. So record for dayesapp.co.in was successfully created. So let us see. So yes. Okay. So now let us search for this particular thing. Copy this and paste it here. And we can see this, right? Click on this. We can see the same thing. Okay. So observe the link. This is the publicly available domain name. So this has been redirected to the first app, which we have hosted on Elastic Beanstalk. And upon clicking this, the functionality is the same, right? So if we click on the AWS actual link also, it works. See? Okay. So similarly, we can create one for testing app also.